Diablo 4 just got a ton of new balance changes, balance fixes, and even class changes. So we'll go over those briefly because there was 2 of them. We also had a major updates for those super rare uniques, and even a full rundown from a developer, as well as potential drop rates for those uniques. We also have an update to some of the XP changes. We got a lot to talk about. What's up, World Streamer? Back in the video, checking out all things Diablo 4. Okay, so let's quickly jump into those hotfixes. Now there was 2 of them, but they were both back to back. And the reason being is there was a major issue that needed to be addressed. So for hotfix 12, we had a barbarian unique weapons Overkill, Hellhammer, and Ancient's Oath will no longer drop for Druid players. And I know Druids were really wanting this change, especially trying to get their own uniques. They added a developer note here saying that if you do have these weapons equipped, if you unequip them, you will no longer be able to use them. However, they still will work for right now. As long as you do not unslot or unequip that item, you will still be able to use it as a Druid. Now for Sorcerer, they fixed an issue where increased damage from the Sorcerer's combustion ability was not applying correctly. They also fixed an issue where the Ice Shards ability would cause excessive controller vibration and further stability improvements there. So that hotfix was pretty short, but we have another one that was for hotfix 13, which addressed an issue with how monsters could infinitely spawn in seller events. If you were in the Diablo Discord, you probably saw that they banned the posting for the LFG group for those type of seller event XP boosts. And if you didn't know, yeah, there was some sort of exploit where you could like restore or restart the event over and over again. Basically, it was like infinitely spawning mobs, and yeah, it was really fast XP for people, and so they did end up patching that. Now, there was a massive issue with Barbarian earlier as Hoda had its damage nerfed. And at first, it was unfortunately seen that this was being stealth nerfed. However, this was also implemented into hotfix 13 as a fix for the Hoda damage nerf. So they reverted a performance change that inadvertently reduced the damage of the hammers of the Ancient for Barbarian, which was caused from hotfix 12. They had an issue there, and these changes they said were strictly for back-end performance but unintentionally affected gameplay. So there's no future plans of reducing the damage of Hoda of any kind. Just fair warning, it wasn't like something they're going to implement in a future patch. This was a completely unintentional change. Now, as far as those uniques go in drop rates, we have a ton of new info. And we actually got a tweet here from the lead class designer for Diablo 4. And they said, hello, I want to clear up some details on the rarest unique items in Diablo 4. They can drop from any enemy that's level 85 plus. You can get them anywhere you can get a regular unique, and they will always drop at an item level 820 or a higher power level. There are currently 6 of them in the game, and they are extremely rare. I think probably one of the rarest items you'll ever find in any game possible. As we had people dissect the numbers, and they are just absolutely insane. Now, after doing some calculations based on how many people have played, and an estimation on people are level 85 plus, and the guesstimations are incredibly wild, up to tens of thousands of hours played. But we also have some data mine drop rates for this. However, it's hard to calculate because these are based on values and not actual percentages. So for example, the Vassal Helm has a drop rate of 800,000, the Tempest Roar has a drop rate of 400,000, or that's a value of it, and the Shaco has a value of 1. Just to put in perspective, this is less than like 0.01% probably. It's an incredibly low amount that just in my eyes is a little too low. I love to have those chase rares in games that have that low drop rate, but this is way too much. So yeah, hopefully for Season 1 we get an adjustment to that, because that is insanely low, and I don't think anybody's going to ever want to try to play to get these or even try to farm for these. The drop rates are just way too low for this, and they can't really even be a chase unique, which people do like. Hopping back over to Discord discussion, although I know most people probably don't want to use the Diablo Discord, however, there is a now verified bot. So there is the Lilith bot that got verified now that you can use, and this thing has a ton of tools for world bosses, legion evasions, and even Helltide events. So it essentially will ping your server with these scheduled events. It'll also show you what mystery chests are activated at that time. There's a ton of details here on getting this thing activated and all the commands for it. So I'll leave a link down below to the Reddit post with all this detailed stuff if you want to add it to your Discord server. Now, as far as patches go, instead of hotfixes, we will probably be seeing one in the next week or so. As Adam Fletcher responded to a tweet here where he said, "We said in the coming weeks, it's been less than a week since the stream. It isn't just a balance patch and has many other components to it, as noted, require us to submit to first-party council partners as well." And we had a more in-depth answer here where he tried to explain why it takes so long for a hotfix versus a patch and why those things take long to generate, responding to a tweet that said 3 hours after finding the problem and still no fix, where Adam responded here, "Isn't that easy? Builds have to be generated for a hotfix that takes a few hours, the build that goes through QA, then it takes for a few more hours to deploy to every server instance globally." He also went on to talk about XP stuff where he said there are quite a few tweaks to XP coming beyond the NM items, and I think people always forget that seasons will also have XP bonuses via seasonal blessings. And this one in particular was essentially in reply to one of the XP nerf stuff, where he also said, "We mentioned in the stream last week that Nightmare Dungeons is beyond just XP, as we are also incorporating things like teleporting from dungeon to dungeon from sigils. That isn't a thing you can just hotfix in. That one requires is a client patch for PC and first parties, Xbox and PS. Now we also have some stuff addressing the VRAM leakage, and yeah, I'm having a ton of problems with this game. In fact, normally I'm like not the one that has any crashes with games, but Diablo 4 for me is crashing like crazy. And it's not like a crash like every couple hours, but I am getting them at least once a day. And it just seems to be with VRAM usage, and I'm having a lot of hard times shadow playing my content as well. I have a ton of issues there with that, and then I also get this device removal error that pops up occasionally. That will crash my game. It just seems like there's some sort of VRAM leakage issue. And I think it's mostly just with 8GB cards, as I have a 2070. But we had a tweet here from Andrevetti, who said, "Can we please have a communication regarding the VRAM memory leak? It's affecting a lot of us." Adam Fletcher responded, "We talked on stream about having numerous PC optimizations coming in the next few client patches before Season 1. So yeah, I definitely hope this is addressed, and randomly when either spiders explode, and for some of those big animations, for some reason my computer completely stutters out and has a really bad lag problem. Although I've heard people with 11GB 1080 Ti cards are also having issues there, at least from my anecdotal, that it's not just like an 8GB VRAM card that's causing these stutter issues. So yeah, I definitely hope that's addressed in the future and a lot of this stuff is fixed. Now we also have some major news around the Sorcerer class fixes, where Joe Shelley came out with a tweet saying, "We are investigating some situations where Frostblitz's aspect may not be interacting as expected with other skills or aspects." We then had a tweet reply from CC Craft Rage, who said, "Any chance we can also get a confirmation if the attack speed aspects are conjurations, or even if move speed in relation to ice blades since they are painfully slow?" And Joe replied here saying that attack speed will reduce the casting time of conjurations like ice blade, which also inherit a portion of the sorcerer's attack speed. So if you are taking attack speed on certain things, you will actually have a faster cast time with this. And additionally, things like ice blades will also get their attack speed increase, which would also probably imply that hydras get their attack speed increase as well. I still don't think that'll make the hydra build useful. I think it's okay at early levels, but when you get in those later levels, the hydras don't really provide that much DPS. We also had a tweet here from Lex and Cess, who said, "I'll report to this. Enhanced Frost Nova node is double dipping with Frost Blitz 2 max charges. Cooldown is reduced by 2 seconds at a time, up to 8 seconds total, which essentially each charge cooldown ticks independently one at a time. You can also reduce the cooldown penalty to 10% instead. Basically, the aspect wouldn't be worth using if the interaction was removed and the penalty was still 30%. So kind of insane there. I might need to look into taking that and switching some of my builds up for that, as having that faster cooldown reduction and not having it applied, while also double dipping into that double charge there, is kind of nice. And it might just make that essential for the build takes, and it might even be nerfed because of it. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I am going to do an updated build guide sometime soon, with the new Paragon points and new glyphs fully maxed out. So do be sure to check out for that. That should about cover for today's video. If you like, and subscribe, and until the next one, deuces.